And just when you thought you've heard it all, the absurdities that have been existing in this world the past year, now they're listing slave cabins as Airbnbs. Yes, that's right. If you want to experience how life was pre-antebellum, pre-Civil War period, you can stay at a slave cabin that's listed on an Airbnb. That's right. The Panther Burn Cottage at the Belmont Plantation has a room and breakfast and bed. That's right. And you can basically pay for a stay at this slave cabin. I know it sounds absurd, but we have to remember something. And we have to remember that going back to 2015, there has been a rise in people that are vocally stating that they would love to go back to the antebellum days. Okay? Not so much pre-antebellum, but antebellum days, which is anywhere from 1800s to 1860s of America. That's right. There are people that want to relive slavery over again. And yes, I think these people are sociopaths and also psychopaths. But I'm going to talk about this because I think this is a serious topic and it's nothing to play with. So let's get into it, shall we? Hey, so I literally happened up on this topic. I didn't plan this. It literally popped up on my news feed on my phone. So there is a man who basically goes by Lawyer Winston, and he brought this to everyone's attention on TikTok. So I'm going to read to you the article coming out of the New York Post. And this is in the real estate section. And it reads, slave cabins listed as luxe stays on Airbnb. How is this okay? An 1830 slave cabin listed on Airbnb as a luxe stay has been slammed by its tone-deaf nature. TikTok user Winton Yates, who goes by at Lawyer Winton, brought attention to the listing, posting screenshots of the 1830 structure, which was moved from a nearby plantation to the one it currently sits on. That was advertised as a meticulously restored bed and breakfast. The history of slavery in this country is constantly denied, and now is being mocked by being turned into a luxurious vacation spot, Yates says in the clip, which has been viewed more than 2.6 million times. The listing, which has since been removed from Airbnb, was advertised as the Panther Burn Cottage at Belmont Plantation in Greenville, Mississippi. Oh Lord. The description said it was formerly a slave cabin in the 1830s, then a sharecropper cabin, and a medical office for local farmers. How is this okay in somebody's mind to rent this out? A place where human beings were kept as slaves? The civil rights attorney questions in the now viral video. In a screenshot posted by the TikToker, the owner, Brad, has been identified as a superhost, with someone who goes above and beyond in their hosting duties and is a shining example of how a host should be, as per their website. He adds the rave reviews on the property are just as shocking, with guests describing their stay as historic but elegant and memorable. Yates says an accurate history of the cabin has not been shown at all, with no attempts to educate people on the actual conditions slaves lived in, with the accommodations featuring modern amenities such as Wi-Fi and running water. A representative for Airbnb told the Post they are taking this report seriously and have deactivated all listings associated with the property as we investigate. Mike reports there are several other properties that also advertise other former slave quarters as luxury accommodations. In a follow-up video, Yates says he thinks the slave cabins on plantations should be kept in their original condition to educate people on the conditions enslaved men, women, and children were forced to endure. The owners of the properties in the present day should be obligated or feel obligated to research and actually find the history of these places, these plantations, Find the people that lives here, their lives, their names, because there are people's ancestors that are still alive, he says. There are so many Black Americans in this country that do not have the opportunity, the resources, or the ability to know who their ancestors are. Know the names of their ancestors, he continues, citing the Whitney Plantation, Louisiana, as an example of somewhere doesn't shy away from its history in another clip. I think these places should remain, but they should remain in a way that gives something back to the communities that are still affected by the things that happen in these places, he explains. And I agree. We have to stop romanticizing the antebellum period. Enough is enough. You want to romanticize this. You really want to sneakily bring this back. But you owe my people, me, you owe us a debt. Okay? No, we were not enslaved. But see, the laws that you put in place post-Reconstruction period has followed us to where we are today. So, because of that, we're going to always talk about our reparations because you gave it to everyone else. Yes, you gave it to the Native Americans on November the 16th, 1990. There is a statue for that. You gave it to Japanese Americans. You've given it to Jewish Americans for the Holocaust. You've given it to many people, but you haven't given it to us, but you still romanticize the debauchery, the trauma, and you also romanticize the luxury of slavery because you didn't have to do any work. You didn't have to clean at all. We did everything. And we don't get anything. We get, stay in line and stay in your place. You can read the captions on this. Memorable. Highly recommend watching the sunset. These are the people that stayed at this plantation, at this cabin. We stayed in the sharecropper cabin and ate in the main house. The house tour was great, and so was the breakfast. And other people like Kristen and some other white lady. It was elegant, memorable, historic, but elegant. Look at this. Shout out to Lawyer Winston for really putting this on blast. This is why we have to have people that are very much, in the know and stay on stuff like this to let the people know. Now, regardless of where he's from, I commend that man for really, really calling us out. It's not okay. He's a civil rights lawyer. It's not okay. It's not okay. It's not okay at all to do this. I'm only from my mother's family. I'm only 1, 2, 3, 4 generations away of slavery, of chattel slavery. And there was a vow that my family made that they would never pick cotton. And yes, there were cotton farms still in existence after slavery. But my family has never picked cotton. My great-grandmother never picked cotton. My grandmother never picked cotton. My mother never picked cotton. And I damn sure never picked cotton. And I don't want to, okay? And let me tell you something. They still got them farms there. And there's people that still work on those fields. And let me tell you something. With the desperation that's going on right now, particularly people that's not getting the vaccine because they don't want it for jobs, I'm telling you, there's going to be jobs where you don't need the vax. But one of them jobs, I'm telling you, they're going to destitute people and make them desperate to where they're going to have plantations going. This is why these times and everything with extreme politics, because it all goes down to extreme politics. You got to get rid of extremism in the American political scene. We got to go back to the days of the 1990s when you had centrist politics. You had neoliberals, neocons. I don't care what anyone says about both of them. The one thing about both of them, they were not extremists with it. Yes, they used coded language when they talked about blacks. But as much as people like honesty in their politics, you want to deal with extreme racism extreme politics for the next 10 years? I don't think so. Both of it is horrible. This is extreme right wing. Alt-right thinking. I stayed in a plantation. We stayed at the big house. We ate bread and breakfast. It was historic, meaning that it was real. This really happened, but it was also elegant because I got to relive as a white person what it would be like to not really do anything and to have Negroes serve me at hand and foot. Yeah, they want to bring this back. That's why they're doing this. Now, Airbnb did remove the advertisement, but how long did it take for them to realize that it wasn't okay for it to be advertised in the first place? See, those are the things you got to think about. This is why I'm saying the romanticism of people, want to go back in the past. You better be careful and you better analyze when people say, I want to go back in the past. Well, how far back do you want to go? And what period? Do you want to go to, ancient Rome? Do you want to go to, the age of the Crusaders? Are you trying to go to when the Pacific Islands were being conquered by Europeans? Do you want to go to when the Great Wall of China was built? Or do you want to go in the Antebellum period? Like, these are things that you have to ask people. Because with me, I'm going to be honest with you. I would like to go back in the past. But I just want to go back into the 90s and late 80s. That's all. Or if anything, if any time period I would go back to, besides the late 80s and 90s, I would really go back to I would go to the 1950s. I would, and visit that period. But only in New York. Only in New York. I'm not dealing with Jim Crow. I'm not, because with the stuff that I say, oh no, I know my ass would end up in jail. But for me, yeah. But I'm not going back to some period where my ancestors were being mistreated. And I don't want to even relive that. Like the Williams Colonial exhibits. I couldn't work there. Do you know how off code I would be at that place? I wouldn't be on code with those people. Oh my God. That was a life form of romanticizing slavery. People didn't realize it though. But I always had a problem with that. I remember there was an event that we were supposed to go to when we was in Virginia, when I was a kid going to school. And we were supposed to go and visit that very place. But it got canceled. For some bizarre reason, it got canceled. And I didn't want to go. But had I went, I would have asked them, like, did you ever think about running away? Don't you dream of freedom? Or don't you, want to take it? Because, my great-great-great-grandmother, she took hers. And so did a lot of our ancestors took their freedoms in different sides of our family. But you also have Black people, believe it or not, that deep down inside, they like this shit. And they like it because they really don't want to see a change. And this is why this way of thinking is acceptable and is allowed. And until you basically call that out, we're going to still have nonsense like this. And with that being said, it's your girl, Miss Analytical. I'm signing off. Thank you for listening and tuning in. Hit the notification bell. Subscribe if you haven't. Comment, share, like. And I'll be back with you all soon. Later.